O'Mahony, I'm Director of Facilities Management at Dwyer Property. I'm delighted that you could join us here today for our monthly OMC Client Information Talk. Today's briefing, titled Energy Consumption, is on a very relevant area, and I'm sure you are looking forward to hearing about this. Our speaker today is Deirdre Hurley of Energia. Deirdre has over 15 years' experience in the industry and is a Senior Key Account Manager for Energia. Deirdre's presentation will last approximately 30 minutes, and there will be time afterwards for some questions. I'll now hand you over to Deirdre.
Hiya, first of all, thank you to O'Dwyer's Property Management for inviting me in here today. As John has said, I've been working with Energia for nearly 15 years now. So I've basically at this point looked after all different types of customers, from retail to property management to some of the telecom companies. So what I'm going to do today is just go through the slides here and basically give you an idea of who Energia are, the energy market, and the deal that Energia and O'Dwyer's Property Management have in relation to electricity. So covering the topics today, I'll go through Energia as a company, where we started from and where we're hoping to go in the future. A little bit on the energy market, which has changed over the last few years in the Republic of Ireland, and we'll do a little bit again then on the group deal that's done with Energia and O'Dwyer's. A big issue for most companies at the moment is energy efficiency. There's only a certain number of ways that you can cut your costs when it comes to electricity. One is obviously the price that you're paying per kilowatt unit, and then energy efficiency kicks in, trying to get companies to drive their usage down. Obviously, the less you use, the less you pay. And then we'll just go through a few additional services that Energia can provide to our customers. So Energia, we are a part of the Viridian Group. Energia, the supply arm, we were formed in 1999 when the energy market was created. The Viridian Group is the parent company, and then we have some sister companies. So we would have Energy Generation. They would look after our power stations. Energy Renewables, they would look after any of our green developments. And then we'd also have Power NI. Power NI would be the equivalent to the ESB down here in ROI, so they would supply to the majority of domestic sites in the north of Ireland. So as a company, the Viridian Group's turnover is just over €2 billion. And that turnover has put us in one of the top 50 Irish businesses in Ireland. We supply at the moment to 65,000 SME customers, so we would have over just about 36% of the market. So that means we're supplying to 1 in every 3 businesses in the country. You might have seen recently, you've probably heard our name a bit more on ads on the TV and on the radio. We've recently gone into the domestic market, which has been going very well for us. We recently hit over the 80,000 domestic customers, and that's only since August, the end of August, the start of September. So now we're supplying to both domestic and businesses in the whole island. So a little bit about who we are. Our generation side of the business, Energia have invested over €1 billion in the energy market. 500 million of this was invested into our power stations. So we would actually own and run our own power stations that are based outside of, on the outside of Dublin and Finglas. When the market was deregulated, there was a need for independent suppliers and independent generators to come in, and we were actually the first company to come in and to generate our own electricity. So in 2002, Hunstanton Power 1 was built, and then 5 years later we extended it to Hunstanton Power 2. And that was just because the demand for electricity in the Republic of Ireland at the time had hit its maximum. They were looking for independent generators to come on and bring on new electricity into the grid. The renewable side of the house is basically becoming more and more in demand for customers. A lot of customers, property management being one of them, it's a priority that they're green, they're environmentally friendly. So the contract with O'Dwyer's is green, and we would actually generate that green electricity ourselves. Our sister company, Energy Renewables, we have invested 550 million into wind farms throughout the country. So we actually build our own wind farms, and then we'd purchase the offtake of green electricity from other wind farms. So we're hoping to double that figure in the next 5 years, because as I said, it's a real priority for companies now. Like a lot of companies have been given targets to reduce their emissions and things like that. So yeah, that's definitely the growing side of the business. A little bit about the energy market. The energy market is a little bit complicated, and it has changed over the last few years. So up until 2007, the North of Ireland and the Republic of Ireland had two totally different markets. They had two totally different national grids. In 2007, the SEM, which is the Single Electricity Market, was established, and basically what that did is it just brought the whole island together as one national grid. So EirGrid would be the ones who would operate and look after the national grid. So anything that comes into Ireland, we would import electricity and gas from outside of Ireland, or anything that's generated is all pooled onto the national grid. And then any electricity that is purchased is taken from the national grid. So it's basically a pool market that everything is pumped into and everything is taken out of. So EirGrid look after that side of it. Then you have ESB Networks. ESB Networks look after the transmission and the distribution. So they basically are responsible for getting the electricity from the national grid out to your business or home. They have the monopoly on that side of things. They're the only company who look after it. They are the ones who come out and read your meters. So we'd often get asked the question, do Energia come and read your meter, or how does it work? So Energia are your supplier, but ESB Networks are still the ones that go out and take your meter reads. They take the meter reads, they send them into the MRSO, who is kind of the go-between all the suppliers and ESB Networks, and then that's how your supplier bills you. All of this is all overseen by the energy regulator, the CER. So the CER are the ones who would kind of keep an eye on what charges EirGrid, your supplier, and ESB Networks are charging you on an annual basis. So when you look at your electricity bill, there's a number of different charges on your bill. This is both for at home and for your business. So just to give you a brief idea of what your bill is actually made up of, out of all the charges on your bill, 60% of those charges are for Energia, so it's actually for the supply, but there's 40% of the charges on that bill that go to some of the previous companies that I had just mentioned. So some of them would go to EirGrid, and that's basically for the cost of the generation and maintaining the actual grid. ESB Networks, things like your standing charge, your maximum demand charge, your PSO levy, things like that will all cover the costs of ESB Networks, again maintaining, upgrading their systems. Then Energia will obviously, when you look at your bill, we're the ones who charge you for your supply, so we charge you per kilowatt hour, and that's where 60% of your electricity bill will come from. So that's the part where Energia sit down with O'Dwyer's management, and every year on an ongoing basis we would sit down and come up with the best price that there is in the market for all their clients. The PSO levy is a levy that was brought in by the government to cover the costs. It's very expensive to generate renewable electricity. Obviously Ireland is a windy country, but it's not windy 100% of the time. So these wind farms are only productive up to 60% of the time. You obviously have some of the old generation supplies as well that the ESB would have built back in the early 1990s, and these are all run on peat and coal. So again, they're very, very expensive to run. So the government brought in a PSO levy, and that basically covers the costs of all the generation and the renewable as well. So that's been out in the papers quite a lot recently, because what the regulator does is in October he will set all the prices for the rest of the year. So the PSO levy alone increased by 55% this year, and basically how it works is the price of electricity drops, then that means the wholesale market is more expensive. So the PSO levy will cover the extra costs that are going to be affected for the generators, and this is passed on to all customers. It's passed on, it's on your domestic bill, it's on your commercial bill. So everyone will see a big jump in that charge as of the 1st of October this year. So just to go specifically into the deal that is done between O'Dwyer's and Energia. Energia originally started supplying to the ODPM portfolio in 2011. Basically what happens is we would sit down and we would do a 12-month contract. So O'Dwyer's would go out to the market, they would get prices from all suppliers, and we would sit down and we'd make sure that O'Dwyer Property Management have the best price in the market at that time. The advantage of bulk buying, as O'Dwyer's Property Management do, is that you're assigned an account manager. So that's myself. So what I would do each year is like that, sit down, make sure that O'Dwyer's aren't put onto out of contract rates. When you sign up to a supplier, you sign up for 12 months. So if you don't go back and renew that contract within 12 months, you'll automatically be put onto a default rate. So that never happens to any of the O'Dwyer Property Management clients. Something to keep in mind as well for your own domestic houses at home. You know, you might sign up to Bord Gáis, Energia or Electricity and you think that's grand, I've made my change now, I've switched, but that rate is only valid for 12 months and they'll automatically put you onto the highest rate in the market then after that. So that's what we prevent from happening to the ODPM portfolio. Another thing that we did as well is when I first came into O'Dwyer's Property Management, the contract was 1st of October renewal date. So as you know, when you're coming into October, it's getting colder, the gas prices go up, electricity prices go up. So what was happening is O'Dwyer's Property Management were renewing their contract at probably one of the most expensive times of the year. So since 2011, we've gradually extended that contract. And we've brought the renewal date back to the 1st of May when prices are always at the lowest in the market. So overall, looking at if we take a group rate that Energia have that we supply to groups all over the country of sites from maybe 30 sites up to 100 sites, the ODPM deal is approximately 5% cheaper than our standard group rate. If we compare that to a default rate that you might be put onto if you weren't in contract, it's probably about 16% cheaper. So there's great savings there to be made, and as I said, it's year on year. Every 12 months we're sat down and we renegotiate the rates. Another thing that's involved in a part of our offer is a fund for energy efficiency. So we would allocate a certain amount of money to O'Dwyer's to allow them to carry out any energy efficiency projects. So any audits or maybe an energy awareness campaign for staff members, or there's quite a few different options. There's another slide, I'll just go through the advantages of energy efficiency. If energy efficiency is taken as a priority and the proper steps are carried out, you can reduce your bills by up to 20%. So it could be something as simple as changing the lights to LEDs, more efficient lighting, or making sure that all your PCs are switched off at 5 o'clock and they're not left running all night, or motion sensor lights. So that type of thing, what Energia would do is they would go out to a premise, they would do an audit and put together a report for O'Dwyer's Property Management, and then you can carry out all the changes then that we recommend. And as you can see, you can save up to 20% that way. There's a lot of charges on your electricity bill that you don't have control over, like the ones that are regulated. So really reducing your electricity is the biggest way to save money on your bill. So Energia, last year we've actually got our own in-house energy efficiency team. So we would have a group of guys who will go out and do the audits, and they will come sit with O'Dwyer's and go through exactly the type of projects that can help your clients. So this is we really are encouraging this. Just recently as in August, the government have actually put an obligation on all suppliers to reduce their customer base's consumption. So we have been given targets for 2010. If Energy as a supplier don't hit these targets, then we actually get penalised, and the penalties are quite hefty. So what Energy are doing now is we're actually funding the projects for you. So if you say that we would change all the lights in this building and it's going to save 100,000 kilowatt units, we'll actually pay you per kilowatt unit. So we're basically paying for the savings that you're going to be making. So it's a great way of taking advantage of the funding that's there. So the different ways, the energy awareness campaigns, that's more for your staff members to get them educated on electricity. We can come into the building, go through, PCs and all the basic thing. It's just basically housekeeping for the staff. The energy audits can be very specific. I know one that O'Dwyer Property Management were interested in is lifts in their buildings, because lifts are quite expensive to use. So we have done an audit and trying to drive the costs of that down. And then there's Strategic Energy Management Training Initiative. So again, that's basically where you set out your plan, and if you in 12 months have made those savings, then Energy will pay you for the kilowatt units that you've saved. So just some additional services to O'Dwyer's Property Management as well. Energy have probably the best online system out of all suppliers. We have two different online systems. We have Energia Plus and Energia Premium. So this allows you to access your energy consumption and your bills. So basically by just logging on using your email address and a password, you can see a PDF of your bill, or you can pull a report on what consumption you've used in the last 6 months, the last 12 months. It gives a reporting functionality, so literally on the click of a button it can export that to Excel for you. So all the information is there. You can review it by data. You can pick certain sites, or there's different tariffs within the electricity. There's your general purpose or your general purpose night saver, so you can pick it by tariff category as well. And then there's also an instant query facility linked to your account manager. So while you're online, if you view something and you think, oh, that looks a bit high or that looks a bit low, or I wonder what's happening there, you can literally send an email to your account manager through the online system as well, querying that. So as I said, the first system is Energia Plus. This will probably be very helpful for an accounts payable department, or if you just want to literally go on and see your bill, if you don't want to have to go rooting through the printed copies. It gives you a breakdown of the bill. You can print it out in PDF. You can export it to Excel if you need to upload it onto a certain system, and it also gives you your meter read history. That's very helpful for the O'Dwyer's Property Management clients, because you've usually got a number of different MPRN numbers. What happens a lot, as I explained earlier, is ESB networks that go out and read your meter. They're only entitled to read your meter. The regulator says they only need to read your meter once a year. So that means you're only getting one actual bill a year based on ESB networks. So what we always encourage our customers to do is to take a meter read as often as you can at the premise and send it through to us. And this just means you're getting an actual bill. You won't be hit with a catch-up bill further down the line if ESB networks have been underestimating you. And what the meter read history does is it'll pull a report and it'll show you how many days it's been since the last actual. So you can concentrate on the sites that maybe haven't been read in 8 or 9 months. And again, you can pull a consumption report that will just give you what you've used per site over the last 12 months. Energia Premium is more an in-depth online system. This is where it actually lets you to drill in to each individual site, each charge on your bill. There's a number of different tabs. So your expenditure tab, instead of just letting you print out your bill, you can pull a report on, the charges that you paid for your units or your pass-through charges. There's a number of charges that ESB work might pass on they're like penalties. So if you've overused on what you have agreed, there could be a penalty in there. So you can pick a report on what sites are being penalised, and then you can look at, right, what's happening here. You know, is it just that we're overusing at one stage of the month? Is there something being left on at night time? So I'll let you drill right down into each site. The Trends tab will just give you all that information in pie charts, bar graphs, so it's quite easy to compare year on year. So the longer you're in energy, this system holds the information for 4 years, so you can actually compare what your usage and what your spend is this time last year to this year, which is obviously handy when it comes to the energy efficiency projects, because if you have carried out your LED changes or anything to do with changing your heating system to reduce the electricity, you should be able to see that reflected in the Trends tab. The consumption report again lets you drill right down into the information. There's excess capacity charges as well that can be highlighted in the consumption report, and that's a matter then of contacting ESB Networks and resolving all those issues with them. The meter read tab gives a little bit more detail on just the days. It'll tell you the next ESB Networks are actually scheduled to go out and read your meter. So if you're looking at a list of 400 sites, you can say, okay, we don't need to concentrate on reading these meters because ESB Networks are going to be there in the next month or two. So it's handy for companies with a large number of sites. The half-hour data tab, basically there's some of the bigger sites that would have online meters. So the actual consumption that you use is registered and recorded every half an hour. So what this will do is it'll drill down into every day unit and every night unit that you're using in a half an hour period. And then the bill tab again will give you a breakdown of all the charges on the bill. So again, with O'Dwyer Property Management, the account, because it's such a large portfolio, is account managed. So there's a dedicated account manager who we come in, we have monthly, quarterly, annual meetings. So if there's anything changing within the portfolio, or if there's anything changing in the actual market, like the PSO levy, we'll always come in and try and highlight those issues to O'Dwyer so that can be passed on to the clients, so they know what to expect and what to budget for. The key account sales support, the biggest thing when we do our surveys against other suppliers is not having an actual contact, picking up the phone and speaking to someone different every time that you have a query. So you have your account manager, and then you also have a key account sales support who is based in the office from 9 to 5. So every time you ring, O'Dwyer's will be put through to that person so they know how the account is set up. Energy Services Manager, that's dedicated to providing customer ways to use energy more efficiently. So again, that's the energy efficiency in-house team. So they're there. It's up to the customers to decide what kind of audits they want, what sites audited. They just come, they tell us, and then we arrange with the Energy Efficiency Manager to go and actually carry out the audit for you. So that's basically sums it up. So if anyone has any questions and answers section here now, if you have any questions on anything that's been covered in the slide, or everybody happy enough? Okay, well, thanks a million. I've left some business cards on the table, so if anybody wants to take my business card, and if you have any questions later on the presentation, you can just pop me an email and I'll get back to you. All right, thank you.